This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Well, hello everyone. It's 1 o'clock. Welcome to this live Q&A on Telegram with Darren Hazelwood, the CEO of Panther Metals. My name's Mark Fairbairn. I'm from Stockbox, and I'll be hosting the session today, fielding your questions to Darren. So we've already had about 8 questions put forward so far. So thank you everyone for submitting those ahead of time. We'll start with those ones first, and then what will happen is we can open up the floor to everyone here if they'd like to ask any further questions. So that can be done either by typing in the group, and we'll pick them up through there, or indeed the Telegram admin can actually unmute you if you want to ask your question directly. Just use the hands up button there in Telegram, and we'll see that, and you can unmute and actually ask Darren directly. So this is, of course, your chance to connect with Darren, get the questions you want answered. Darren is here for you. Of course, he will be bound by the rules of the London Stock Exchange, but I'm sure he will do his very best to answer all the questions that you have. So let's welcome Darren. First of all, hello, Darren. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Mark. How's yourself?
Very good. Thank you, Darren. This is the first time we've done a live Telegram Q&A. Thank you very much for your time doing it. Before we get into the questions, you wanted to say a few words. Did you give a bit of an update on the state of play?
Yeah, I think what I'll do, if that's okay, is just give a brief summary for potentially people within this platform that aren't necessarily completely up to date with where Panther Metals are at. And then maybe move into your questions after that.
Excellent. That sounds very good. So, well, I'll give the mic to you for a few minutes then, and then we'll come in with the questions.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mark. Right. Okay. So the Panther Metals. Who are they? We're an exploration company. We're a greenfields explorer. We're listed in London. We've got 3 exploration assets, and they're all in the Tier 1 jurisdiction of Ontario, Canada. And it's a province and country that's built on mining. And in no particular order, I'll run through our properties. We've got Manitou Lakes. This is a gold property, and we've discovered a approximate 700-meter gold anomaly in soils above a shear zone that's open along strike and at width from a historic mine. The property is largely unexplored, and that's despite sitting just south of Manitou Gold's exploration assets that they sold for $7 million in 2021 to a company called Dryden. Next steps at Manitou Lakes are we're looking at a MAG and EM survey, ground IP, and then that will move us into drilling. Dotted Lake, this is 16 kilometres north of Hemlo Mine. It's a gold and base metals project. Huge progress has been made in sort of the wider region by our neighbours at this location, and to the extent that they actually announced a new nickel district stretching over 20 kilometres in the autumn of 2022. Dotted Lake contains by far the largest MAG signature in this region, and it also combines with the highest and most widespread nickel, copper and cobalt soil grades, and they sit immediately above the anomaly. And this anomaly contains 2 intrusive rock types, gabbro and serpentinite, and the contacts here have not ever been drill tested, and this is the exact type of location where deposits are discovered. The Abonga Greenstone Belt. Now, we put this project together with one goal in mind, and that's a takeout or takeover. It now contains everything a junior explorer could wish for. We control nearly 90% of the entire Greenstone Belt. It's 2.5 hours from a major port in a Tier 1 jurisdiction. It contains mineralisation of a mineable grade. It contains at least 2 VMS systems, and we believe more. It contains graphite, anomalous copper, anomalous lithium. and it's over 60,000 acres and largely unexplored. From an investor's perspective, if you want a property that's in the right jurisdiction, it's got scale, it's got the right geological setting, and an opportunity. Abonga contains it all. At the moment, we've got 5 named exploration targets on Abonga. They're Wishbone, Survey, Awkward, Ottertooth, and Silver Rim. At Wishbone, we've only drilled 5 holes. From those 5 holes, we've discovered, in VMS terms, a huge system. In our initial drilling of the autumn of 2021, it contains over 82 meters of massive and semi-massive sulfide. Following on, we've since discovered it contains zinc and copper mineralization, and we've got at least 3 horizons in this area, and each or every one of them could contain a deposit. The next stages at Wishbone is simply step out drilling. At Survey, we've drilled 1 hole, and just from 1 hole, we've confirmed this is a VMS system. The MAG survey that we've got on Survey, it places it at nearly 3 kilometers long. So this is a big area. And the next stages at Survey will simply be IP and follow up drilling. Awkward sits in different rocks on Abonga, but it contains graphite. We discovered this in last autumn. It also contains at surface anomalous platinum, palladium, but more work's required at Awkward. And at this stage, we would be parking that. That's no reflection on how we feel about it. It's more about what the other opportunities have available to them. Ottertooth, it's never been drilled, and that's despite being ranked 8th out of hundreds in the late 1990s survey carried out by the Canadian Geological Society over Northern Ontario. Our belief now is it's another VMS, and it's known to contain anomalous copper and gold. And finally, Silver Rim. And Silver Rim, it contains anomalous silver and lithium. But at this stage, what we want to do there is put a drill hole in it just to look at the stratigraphy. We've also, as a business, we've got a couple of investments, but they're now in Panther Metals' toolbox, for want of a better expression, and they'll be used to the benefit of Panther and our shareholders at the discretion of the board, Mark. So that kind of sums up Panther Metals and where we're at.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Darren. That does give a very nice snapshot there of the company and where you're at. It's nice to hear about all the projects there, and of course, there's other investments that could bring some cash to the company when needed. So let's get on with the questions then. So the first one that we have here is about Awkward, and the question is: the Awkward drills were very shallow. What happened on Awkward, and is the nickel PGM hypothesis dead, or are there further deeper drills to take place?
Right, first of all, that hypothesis isn't dead. Awkward contains quite extensive nickel PGM grades. There's lots of smoke in that area. There's a lot going on, and it's not dead by a long shot. But yes, for now it is parked. But on the drill depths, we got our plate modelling done by Campbell and Walker Geophysics, and more specifically a Sean Walker, and that provided us enough information for us to know where we're at this stage on Awkward. But we'll be back. But it's not one of our priorities in the short term. As a junior, we've got to prioritise where we go on Awkward, on Abonga, and we're desperate to get back to Awkward. If we had £20 million in the bank, we would be on Awkward today. But the fact is we don't. So as a result, we've got to prioritise.
Okay, so it's parked for now, purely from a prioritization point of view. There's better opportunities and better ways to deploy the capital into different parts of the company for the moment anyway.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Okay, the next question I have, congratulations on your appointment as CEO elsewhere, Montaro, I think. I really do not see how being a CEO at 2 companies will not impact somewhere. So I guess the question here is, will the other board appointment impact your abilities as CEO of Panther?
Yeah, absolutely it will, but in a very positive light. And but first of all, thanks for the congratulations. You know, at Mantara, it has been a bit of a revolving door, the CEO role. I'm number 4 in 10 months, but it's got 2 great assets, and it's about getting to work on those. But the thing for the investors need to realise is Mantaro isn't Panther, and at Mantaro you've got quite a big active structure, and that offers a huge amount of support for CEO. But I was aware when I took this role that there would be potentially negativity around me taking that, and I'm not blind to that fact. And I actually understand, because from a personal perspective, I don't like seeing a CEO wearing 2 hats. But in this instance, there certainly is a strategy in place, and I've conversed fully with my chairman. Nick's a great guy. He would be reasonably conservative by nature, and just purely by the fact that I've got 100% support from Nick and the board as to what's going on here, and actually how Panther will benefit, should offer a lot of comfort to shareholders. There's a wider plan in place here, and I'm going to action it, but I'm not going into those details. Hopefully that answers that one.
Okay, yeah, I do see some sort of follow-ups. I'll just pick up on them. Someone's asking about would there be a main priority between the two, or would it possible for the companies to merge and get a Canadian listing? I mean, what are your thoughts?
No, there's no chance of the companies merging.
Okay.
They're in different jurisdictions, and they operate different. And so to answer that question quite brutally, I own 5% of Panther, and I believe that 5% now has the best chance to transform my personal wealth. But there's a strategy at play. These markets have been challenging over the last 12 months, and I just ask that people understand that, and understand that Panther is the main priority by some distance.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Right, so on to the next question. This is regarding the share price. The share price is down 55% over the last 12 months, and the CEO takes on another CEO role. So we have kind of just covered that. Surely his priority should be getting the share price back to where he talked it up to prior to the disappointing drill results. So,
okay,
where are your priorities, Darren?
There's a few questions there. I think I've covered off the Mantaro CEO role, and but I guess regarding the share price, it is down over the last 12 months, but I guess I'd say, is the business in a worse position than it was 12 months ago? Okay, we own nearly 90% of a greenstone belt that contains mineralization, mineable grade. It contains a VMS camp. This isn't a single VMS, a single target, but it contains at least 2. An otter tooth shows remarkable geological similarities to the others. A bonga contains graphite, and that's one of the sexiest commodities on the planet currently. A bonga's in a tier 1 jurisdiction, 2.5 hours drive from a major port. And we've locked up this greenstone belt, right? So it offers everything a junior can dream of. And over at Dotted Lake, we've discovered anomalous soil samples that fit in incredibly well with work and success Palladium 1 have done. And you know, that's been exceptionally successful. At Manitou Lakes, we've discovered a gold trend open at width and along strike from an historic mine. What else? We've in the last 12 months, we've seen the Aussies define a 70.6 million ton nickel cobalt resource. We've got Fulcrum have listed, and all that is within the last 12 months. We've actually seen, just in Fulcrum listing, we've raised in that 12 months, we've raised what, 1.15 million, and Fulcrum alone holding is worth 1.75 at today's market values. So I would actually say that the part of this is being dragged down by sector and by sentiment. You know, and now, in my opinion, the market's screaming raise at these levels. If our drill results were poor or bad, then the market would have pulled us down. We'd be around 2p now, I think, but they're not, and they weren't. But what the market is doing is actually saying to us, these guys are going to raise money. We're going to hold you back for as long as we believe you need to raise money. And I genuinely believe it's as simple as that. But I don't think that investors should mix up and get things mixed up regarding what the market's doing and the success of the company. And I think that is certainly happening in our case. But you've witnessed, and now, you know, you're witnessing a business that's transforming. And that's actually due to the success we've had over the last 12 months. You know, all our deals are done, they're finished. And we're reinvesting internally now into our communication strategy. I'm the first to admit that's potentially been a little bit weak. But we're only investing in that now because the assets are worth investing in terms of the communication. And if we'd been investing in the communication from day dot, we'd have a lot more shares in issue than we currently have. Hopefully that provides you some sort of answer for that.
Okay. Yes, I think so. You covered quite a few points there, but yeah, you sort of talking about the markets and thinking about markets, thinking that you need to raise money, but you have suggested there that that is, well, you said that's not the case, and there are other access points that say to get to that capital. So, well, let's see how things progress. But I think that's probably covered off that question, unless anyone wants to follow up on that. But let's move on to a question here about Wishbone. So the Wishbone VMS has discovered a limited amount of zinc, and investors are frankly underwhelmed. What next for Wishbone? Does Panther think that there are any prospects for turning this into a commercial discovery?
Yeah, look, I think to start off with, I can tell everyone that the information flow around our Bonga assets haven't necessarily been what people would want and hope. There is reasoning behind that, and you know, and our joint venture, our option partner, who's built our models and does a lot of our drill planning. Now they've got a geological consultancy, and obviously everything you see from explorers is conceptual, and due to its conceptual nature, our option partner doesn't want that in public because of other work they do that can impact on. So what we've done, and we've been doing this over the last couple of months, we're now building our own models so that people are going to get a better understanding of what's going on at Wishbone and absolutely why it should why it offers the chance of a discovery. But one thing I would say there, I don't think investors are underwhelmed. You know, you've witnessed the big investors increasing their holdings, and these are the smart guys, and they're the ones that will discuss these results with external sources, and they're the ones that make money in these markets. And if your source of information is message boards or looking simply at a market reaction to results, then I think you as an investor, you're actually risking seeing the bigger picture. And for instance, at the moment, I can't go into why, but we're having discussions internally at the moment with sort of four or five of the top geological consultancies globally, and they're in Australia, UK, Canada, to get a valuation on our Canadian assets. And if people be party to those conversations, because obviously they're looking at the prospectivity of the assets that we own, if you be party to that, then they would be very surprised at the strength of these conversations. But then those that do their entire research probably wouldn't. But we've also been looking at okay, I'm going to name drop it. We've been looking at bringing in a potential VMS expert on a Bonga because of what we're seeing and what the potential is. And I'd encourage people to go on YouTube and type in Bruce Gemmell VMS. There's a great video on there. It's 55 minutes long, and you'll love it. But I don't mind saying in public, Bruce is very interested in being part of the story and part of what's developing on Abonga. Now, if you take the time to look at that and you do your due diligence, you should be asking yourself as to why is someone like that interested in getting involved in a Greenfields Explorer in London. This is all very, very real. I'll go back to what I said earlier. We drilled 2 holes in 2021 and discovered over 82 meters of massive and sulfide dominated core. It's a huge system. We only drilled 3 further holes there in 2022 at Wishbone, and we discovered that the fluids that are running through this system contain mineralization, zinc and copper. That's 5 holes on a greenstone belt and on a greenfield target. That's an amazing result. You look at Hemlo. Hemlo was discovered after 76 holes, and I'm not for one moment suggesting that's what we'll be doing at Wishbone. But you go over to survey. I know that people have questioned the drilling. A survey, we drilled 1 hole. We found anomalous zinc and confirmed it's a VMS. Survey itself is nearly 3 kilometers long. It's a big area, and I think you have the potential for multiple discoveries at Abonga, not just Wishbone, but yes, Wishbone has a high chance of a discovery in our opinion. And I'd say, show me a better Greenfield Explorer in London at this market cap. You've got everything you need on Abonga, not just at Wishbone. I hope that answers the question anyway. So, I probably add, Mark, at Wishbone, we've got 3 horizons. Any one of those alone could contain a deposit, and potentially all 3. And we now know the system contains mineralization. And people should be looking at the detail, looking at the information, because this is a massive development, and hence why we're doing what we're doing, because we know what the market's doing, and frankly, I'm not playing the market's game.
Okay. Well, we can wait to see then, I suppose, on Wishbone. Then you've talked about getting this VMS expert involved. I think that would be quite useful to get his opinion on things. You've talked about building the models there and getting a better understanding of Wishbone for both yourselves, but articulating that to the market. So let's see what happens there. I know you were quite excited about it being a sort of a VMS with multiple deposits potentially. So go on.
Yeah, I think we need to quantify that. The reason that Wishbone is so exciting, and the reason that the results announced a couple of weeks ago are Black Swan for Panther, is the size of this area. Okay, you've got to look at, we've only drilled 5 holes in total, but to have over 82 meters of massive sulfide and sulfide dominated core in one area, now to know that those fluids are running commodity rich is genuinely a Black Swan event. And we've obviously had those discussions internally, but you have to piece this together.
Okay. Now, if you were to rank all of, if you ranked all of Panther's prospects in terms of risk, drilling cost, commercial prospects, what are Panther's best drill prospects? And then the second part of that question is there any value in further Abonga drills? Seems Abonga results were not too promising.
Again, there's a couple of questions there. I think I've probably covered off Abonga, and I would ask the person who asked the question and added that they weren't promising results and I'm happy to point them in the direction of independent geologists, but certainly the industry has a different view to the last statement on there. It's actually the polar opposite. But rank them. I'm not going to rank them in because look, we wouldn't be bothering here. We wouldn't be bothering to fight to maintain our corporate structure if we felt that the assets that are within our bag didn't all contain the potential for a commercial discovery. Okay, because it simply wouldn't be worthwhile. You know, you in these markets, you've got to put your tin hat on, and I've certainly got mine on, and I wouldn't have that on if I didn't think that there's a chance of a massively transformative event within our current asset base. I can run through the assets, Mark. Would you like me to do that?
Well, you can do it. I mean, someone did ask a question. I saw it pop up in the group. I was going to sort of circle back to it at the end. It was talking when we talked about Awkward there. What's the priority asset if Awkward has been shelved? So maybe you do want to run through it and talk about perhaps whether the flagship project is, you think, or the one with the most prospectivity.
Yeah, hopefully I've covered that off. That for varying reasons, they all are showing huge potential. But Wishbone, frankly, the system's huge. It's carrying mineralization, and the next steps there are step out drilling. It's as simple as that. We know where the system's formed. We're in it. In fact, if you read through the RNS from week last Tuesday, was it? You'll notice there that the metallurgical work shows that we drilled through the centre of the potential VMS or the VMS, and that's not where your mineralisation is going to be hosted in these systems. Ottertooth, I'd like to drill the anomaly first and understand the stratigraphy, and then decide next steps. You know, Silver Rim, it's an anomaly that needs further work on the ground, but the lithium showing and the silver showing are too high to just ignore this. So that holds huge potential. Dotted Lake, we'll just wait for further results from Palladium 1. Then it's IP and drilling. It's easy access. It's quite straightforward. The 2 lakes with Fly EM, mag survey, IP survey, and then drill. Yeah, this is all simple stuff. And any one of those could transform the business. But I do get the criticism of the stop-start nature of the business. But in terms of, we know that, and I know that. I'm more acutely aware of that than anyone. And what we've done, we've operated to maintain our corporate structure, but to also give the business the greatest chance of success. And we've seen, certainly over the last 12 months, huge amounts of dilution at lower levels, and levels that companies are going to struggle to come back from. What I want to make sure that we've locked in some value for our existing shareholders, as well as those new entrants as and when. Okay, so you're effectively saying that all the projects are, you've got your focus at the minute. Nothing is a flagship, but of course that might change as exploration goes ahead and more data emerges. Absolutely, yeah. Okay. So there's a couple, I think, 3 more questions here that have been pre-submitted, and I think there's probably about 3 I've sort of picked up from the group, which I will check back again in a moment to make sure I'm not missing anything. But the next question we have here: various options have been mentioned, but what is the estimated timeline for publication of a definitive strategy to move the company forward to include Canadian assets, PNT and FMET? Right, so just repeat that for me, Mark, please. So various options have been mentioned, but what is the estimated timeline for publication of a definitive strategy to move the company forward to include Canadian assets, PNT and FMET? Right, so I think that's Panther Metals Australia and Fulcrum. But look, Fulcrum, yeah, I think. Yeah, let's cover those off first. I'll use those to the benefit of Panther Metals exclusively. Right, those deals are done. I think that both companies offer a lot of upside and a lot of upside over this year. But ultimately now, I have to leave those guys to go to work, and they'll go into the Panther Metals toolbox, and I'll use them accordingly to the benefit of the business and to our shareholders. So okay, but regarding a definitive strategy, well, we have a definitive strategy internally. That's not one that I'm gonna be reveal it to the market, because within that strategy, there's potential for some of those moving parts to be used negatively against us across our options. So, but what you're seeing is a business sort of evolving and becoming laser focused on the serious prospectivity of its assets. So I'm not going to show my hand to sort of satisfy an immediate requirement for a trader to be given signposts to trade. What this business is doing is looking after investors and moving forward with investors, because the investors are looking for that opportunity for a 20-30 times upside. That's what the risk capital in this market and in this industry deserves. And I genuinely believe that this company offers that with its existing asset base. But to get there without destroying our capital structure, I want to be totally in control of that and be in control of all those moving parts. And that will mean that we can't necessarily communicate our entire strategy, and we'll just have to surprise the market.
Okay, surprise the market. Okay, well, the next question I have, is the company too focused on the negative aspects of dilution, i.e. the impact on shares issued, rather than the potential increase in the share price from the work undertaken with that money that could be raised?
That follows on quite nicely, actually.
I think that's a very good question, actually, as well, because when a company raises money, it should be a good thing because they're going to put it into the ground, hopefully. But
yes, but see, that's actually a really good point, because the market, the function of a market, and we know that the markets aren't functioning entirely correctly in the exploration space at this moment, and that's globally, not just in London, is that it should reward success. We know these are dilutive models, and at the moment that isn't necessarily how the markets are working. We can go back in history and give examples of those. I don't think I will, but look, my job's to balance this out, and currently with the tools that I've got at our disposal, the market, in my opinion, is dismissing us. So, but I've got everything in place. I can actually, and this is done, and the cash flow's done. I can see Panther through to 2024 at the moment. That would be a prudent handling of our cash position, but I can see us right the way through to 2024 if required. And I'll be the first to tell you on here, and I don't mind mentioning this, that if we was 10-15 pence, then we'd be having a different conversation. But I know what's required here. But we've also got to make sure that at this exact moment, when we've done all our deals, that we have our assets in place, that frankly, we don't just become lazy and take the lazy route. And the lazy route is just blindly funding at whatever price. We don't need to do that because of what we've built into the business over the last 3 years. So that by design, that gives us options. And that was always what the plan was here, to give us options. So do we see the business through to 2024 without issuing a share? That is an option on the table. Do we fund in different ways? Yes, we potentially do, but we know where we're going and what we're doing here. But I'm not taking the lazy route. I'm also not, there's been a certain amount of pressure put on to do exactly that. But I don't mind talking about, if we raised £500,000 today at whatever price, I don't care, £1. If we raise £500,000 today, then the market's going to know that we're coming back to it in pretty short order if we go and do the type of work that we need to do. So I'm not going to do that. Last August was a different scenario. Last August, we didn't have the information regarding a bonga. We now have. We now know that a bonga definitely contains all the ingredients. We know how we set a bonga up. We set this up to be of interest to a mid-tier, to a major. And it's the bonga delivered with these drill results. So I would say that we're a different business. The market hasn't rewarded what we've done. So as a result, I'll action things accordingly. But one of those isn't a massively highly dilutive raise at these levels. Doesn't interest me in the slightest.
Okay. Well, the last question I have that was pre-submitted, it does actually circle back to the question before we've just addressed, which is, what is the current worth of the liquid investments in Fulcrum and Panther Australia?
Oh, I'd imagine 3.9 to £4 million, around that kind of region. But that's not what Panther Metals is about anymore. Those are done. They're complete. They're in our toolbox, and going forward, we'll use our toolbox as we see it is the right time for our investors and for the business as we now change focus and we go forward with making the discovery.
Okay, excellent. Well, that completes the questions that were pre-submitted. We've addressed a few already that were submitted during the session there, as they were linked into what you were talking about. There's probably another 3, 4 I've picked up here, Darren. The first one is, how many shares do you hold in Panther? Did you pay for all those shares? And are you looking to add on market?
I paid for every single share I own in Panther with my own cash. I own just over 4.6 million shares. And would I buy at the moment? I can't buy at the moment because I'm inside. Would I? Absolutely, I would. But you're just going to have to see how things pan out. Okay.
Fine. That's fine. That's answered that question. It's always difficult with the closed periods for directors to buy, but we'll keep an eye out for that. Oh, someone's asking, why are you inside? That's a good question, isn't it? That you can't answer.
Yeah, I get why somebody's asked that.
Nice try, but we can't. Top points for asking that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question I have, Darren. The junior market, and you mentioned this earlier, is currently on life support, and trading volumes through the floor. At the moment, there's barely £5,000 a day changing hands, and on many days, no volume at all. How are you going to tempt buyers back in? As I can see, those who are not holders would find it uninvestable at the moment, and many of those who already hold aren't willing to throw sort of good money after bad, and with them being so far in the red. So yeah, of course the market's aware of that. We know the junior market is on thin volumes at the moment. It will return when it wants to return. But what can you do you think, Darren, during this time to wave the flag a bit more, perhaps, that Panther's standing out as a good value buy at this point to tempt buyers in?
Number one, I refute the comment of uninvestable. I think it's the complete opposite, and hopefully some of the information I've released today and talked about will make people to have another look at what the business has, what we've discovered, and where we've taken it. I'll just bite my tongue on that, because that's a statement that is almost message board-esque, that's nuts. But in terms of the business, I think our communication can improve. And as I've already discussed, there are reasons why some of the information on the projects hasn't been as detailed as the market wants and as investors want. We've adapted accordingly, even though you won't see that. I expect a new corporate presentation to be released sometime next week, and that will include some of the modelling that we're now doing. We expect that to get better and better. I've certainly done some research. I like the mod resources. I like the diagrams they used to use. I think they're really easy to understand for investors. So I'm looking at that route in terms of how we communicate what we've done and what we've potentially got, and bring it into a format that's more palatable for investors. So that, and getting out and telling the story. I'll be doing live events this year. talking to the industry, and come and see me, come and have a chat. I don't bite, and I'm happy to talk Panther all day long because of where it's at, what it's got, what we've done, what we've achieved, and I think you're starting to see, the business raise its head now because it's moved on. It's moved on from where it was due to what discoveries and where our assets are at, and that's been driven by us, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay. Just picking on a point there you said about going to events and people being able to come and see you. Are you going to Master Investor in the next few weeks? Is that right?
Yeah, I am. But look, I don't know if this has been released into the public. It's actually the 18th of March, and it clashes with a train strike day. So there's been internal communications. They may change that date. So I'm hesitant to actually say, yes, I'm going to be here on this date. Look out on Twitter. I'll put it into the Telegram group. But yes, I'm there and I'll be presenting.
Okay. Oh, okay. Excellent. Okay. Well, I have a sort of another question here, and then it will kind of sum up, I think, unless other questions are coming in. But we have a question here. How much did Panther Australia raise in IPO? How much will they raise going forward? And how would Panther UK have paid for that?
So Panther Australia raised $5 million at IPO. Okay. Let's go right back to the beginning on Panther Australia. When we closed the deal with Whitecliffs, and we announced that to market, London gave that deal precisely a zero value. Okay, and as a result of that, that's when the assets were then. We had discussions around it, and it was felt that the way to realise the value in that company and in those assets, because we love those assets, was actually to create its own shell and give it its own legs. Because Panther Australia raised $5 million, so circa £3 million. If we had raised that money to go to work on those assets at that time, today we'd probably have 250 million, 300 million shares in issue. That's a zero cost asset to us. So we made the right call on the back of how the market responded to the deal we'd done in Australia. We're not in control of the market, but all we can do is keep adding and developing these great assets. And that's exactly what we've done. And we proved it. London valued it at zero. Australia, more sophisticated, more deeper market, valued at $11 million. Proofs in the market.
Okay, so they raised 5 million IPO. You won't know the answer, I guess, to how much they will raise going forward, will you? It's up to them, I suppose.
It's up to them, but I do know the answer. But that's inside information.
Okay, fair enough.
But I know that they are, and they've announced this, that they are looking to raise. So that's not inside information. They announced that, I believe, in October. But I do know that what they'll be doing is focusing on Coglia and extending that resource. They've got 70.6 million tons at grading 0.7 nickel and with a cobalt credit. And they will be looking to increase that resource. Now, my own, and I can speculate on this, but I tell you now, I'll eat my hat if that doesn't go well north of 100 million tons. And then that's going to put it bang on the radar of some very, very big players, because that then becomes an asset that is really potentially very, very interesting to the major players. And you've got some big players in that area.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Well, just to finish off, Darren, I'm just going to push you a little bit if you can sum up perhaps the strategy for Panther, whether you can do it now in a few words, or whether that you could get something out to market. You've mentioned about the new presentation and getting to shows and things. And the reason I'm sort of asking that is because I've just picked up a few things from the chat in the group there, a couple of comments people have made, sort of the share price is down due to no buyers and perceived disappointment on the drill results. Not that the market is thinking we need to raise money. Also, these are all big areas, but they all may need hundreds of drill holes to prove up we don't have the money or the wherewithal. And then someone was asking about a vague roadmap for 2024 and kind of wanting to see a strategy, when it might be made available. So I don't know if I can get you to sum up a strategy from the head position there as CEO of Panther, and what you're looking to get achieved the rest of this year and sort of going into 2024, or if the market could see something more definitively on the strategy and the overreaching plan of action in the near future from the company.
There's a few questions there, Mark. Do you want to sort of narrow them down, and I'll answer them one at a time, just
Sure.
so that the messaging doesn't get mixed up?
Absolutely. Well, let's take the one about the big areas then. That's good, because that's a question. So these are all big areas and may need hundreds of drill holes to prove up. We don't have the money or the wherewithal to do it.
These areas don't need hundreds of drill holes. Look at what we've already proved at Wishbone off the back of 5 holes. Look at what we've already proved at Survey off of 1 hole. Look at what we've proved at Awkward off of 3 holes. Look at what we've so look at what we've done. Look, don't go on what we say. Go on what you're seeing. Go and see what we've done and what we've achieved with what we've had to use. And there's no saying hundreds of holes that's not the case at all.
Okay, so then when it comes down to a roadmap or a strategy, what can you sort of give people on that?
I can assure people that strategy is in place, and you're going to see that strategy rolling out. I can assure people that we're not raising at these levels. I can assure people that we 100% believe that there's a possibility of discovery on every single one of our projects. Look, I did an interview actually before we drilled. So just remind me, I did an interview before we drilled on Proactive, and we were aiming to drill 5 targets, including Silver Rim and Ottertooth, which sadly we didn't get to because the weather closed in. The reason we were drilling so late was because of negotiations with First Nations. And I said in that interview, we'll make five areas we're drilling, we'll make 5 discoveries. And the guy laughed. Now, during that program, we drilled 3 areas. On one area, we discovered that the fluids that run through that system contain mineralization at a level that is mined today. Discovery number 1. Survey, we discovered a VMS. No one's ever found a VMS on a bonga. We've suddenly found a second with 1 drill hole. At Awkward, which is the 3rd location we drilled, we discovered that Awkward contains graphite. 3 drill holes, 3 drill hole locations, 3 discoveries. Now, I've seen people question our drilling technology because we haven't shared that information, because we haven't been able to. I've not seen one turn around and say 3 areas, 3 separate discoveries. Maybe people should start looking at what we're achieving as opposed to what people are gossiping about. But I've got to make sure that I communicate that in a more succinct and better way, and that's what we're doing.
And that's all got to come together to form something.
The strategy and the plan. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We've talked about making major discoveries, so this has all got to sort of come together to enable to do that. I mean, we're approaching the active season, aren't we? In the spring, that's when the active drill season or exploration season starts over in Canada. I mean, you're able to give a bit of an idea or a snapshot of what's to come this year?
Not at this stage.
No.
Not at this stage, because if I provide any guidance, then it has the potential to be used against us for reasons that I'm not going to go into. But what I can do is say that there are definite plans in place, and we're actively working on this strategy now. And you're just going to have to watch this unfold.
Okay, so
we can wait. That's not the answer.
It's probably not the answer people want, but okay, we'll have to wait to see what.
But if people want our share structure absolutely blown to bits and us to deliver straight into the market exactly what it's currently gagging for, which is cheap stock and lots of it, I can deliver that. That's really, really easy. But I'm not going to.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can see some of those plans down as you do get onto some of these events and get that new presentation sorted, because that would be nice to see exactly what the company do plan on doing, where they're going to get active this year. But that does cover off everything I think I've picked up. I do see someone has their hand up, so that suggests that this person, Richard, would like to actually ask a question directly, Darren. So what I will do is ask the Telegram admin, that's Kenny, if he could allow Richard, please, to unmute his mic and ask Darren the question directly, if that's possible.
Hey Darren, it's Richard.
Hey Richard, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you.
Obviously I'm TR1 holder, been patiently supporting the company. We've obviously had the odd discussion. I hear all the options, but I understand your point about a raise, that the market might be expecting it, but I see that as a subset of where the share price is at the moment. I see the fundamental issue being the uncertainty that we just don't know where the company is going. And I know it's difficult for you because you're probably working behind the scenes. And a subset of that is that we've got very promising systems here, but we know we're going to have to spend money to develop those systems. So I guess what I'm trying to get clear in my head is, when will more definitive strategy be available? Not what it is, but when will we have a bit more clarity as to how we're moving forward, I think is kind of my first question. My second question is, I see that, we have there needs to be a longer term strategy, but at the same stage, the company needs to keep moving forward. And should we have an interim strategy? I'm not talking about, the money could come from, investments or anything else, a raise. There's a whole whole range of options. But should we, bearing in mind that you've mentioned how successful we've been on a very small number of drill holes, is there an argument that spending 500,000, be it coming from existing investments or somewhere else, would advance the project at the same time as bottoming out the longer term structure, the strategy?
So there's two questions there, Richard, and thanks for those. So defining a strategy. Well, in our case, that actually depends what the strategy is. And as I touched on earlier,
I'm talking about timing at the moment. There's various options that are being touted, including distributing out investments, existing investments.
I've not mentioned that on this call, Richard.
Not on this call, but it has been mentioned on Twitter by various people. So I'm just saying, there's various options here, and I'm just trying to work out when we'll know how we're moving forward a bit more clearly into the public domain.
Yeah, and as I say, I think from my side, there's 2 points to that. One is improving the quality and quantity of our communications on our assets. And the other is, we have a defined strategy and what we are now working towards. But as I've said, that that strategy can potentially negatively impact on how that strategy is delivered. So it actually wouldn't necessarily be in the best interest for shareholders to know what that strategy is at this stage. And then when shareholders see that play out and what's happening, it then understand why. and
But
so
will
as
that
a result, the moving parts within that, we've got to finance this business without destroying existing shareholders. And you're one of them. You're a major shareholder, and you've been absolutely brilliant over the lifetime of the business. And I think now is not the moment for. Well, we've been in a really, really challenging market, and now is not the moment when we know exactly where we're at and what the potential for the assets have got to deliver. Now's not the moment for us to make rash moves in terms of how we fund this business over the next 2 or 3 months, let's say, which is what £500,000 would do if we went to work with that.
But I guess my question is, when will we get a bit more indication of how we're moving forward? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months?
You'll see things over the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And I if I stamp a time scale on this, then as we go forward, but there is a definite plan here, and as hopefully you gleaned from some of the answers I gave, that I'm simply not prepared, and I won't lay out that strategy to market because it gives the market leverage against us, and that would be nuts.
Okay. Well, thank you, Darren. So I'll make sure that we keep finding out about the strategy as and when. Thank you, Richard, for asking that question. And Darren will no doubt be speaking in the future, and we can discuss some of that part of the strategy when it's appropriate to release it to market there. So I think that covers all the questions that people have. No one else I can see has their hand up to ask a question, and I don't see anything else in there that I don't think we've covered. There's a quick question here. Is there any argument for a dual listing on Toronto, Vancouver, or ASX for Panther?
Oh, TSXV listing, absolutely. The tax advantages of raising money in Canada are such, and there is that much money available through flow through, which we fully qualify for as our assets in Canada are 100% held via our 100% owned subcode that has a tax code, which then allows it to qualify for flow through capital that's done at a premium and is easy to access. Absolutely, there's potential benefits to that.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well, I think that is everything, Darren. So I would just thank you for your time today. That's almost an hour we've been chatting here. Thank you, everyone, for submitting those questions. And no, it's good. An hour is about the time. About an hour is about the time that we spend on these. Sometimes a little bit longer, depending on what's going on. But thank you, everyone, for putting your questions in beforehand. Thank you, Richard, there for having the confidence to speak and actually ask the question directly. But I think that that does sort of conclude us. And we'll be speaking again, Darren, I'm sure, fairly regularly throughout the course of the year. And as always, anyone you want to ask any questions, either let me know. My DMs are always open on Twitter there, or let Stockbox know through their Twitter. And we'll pick them up and we'll make sure we're getting the questions answered as best we can. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining today. Thank you, Darren. Go on, Darren.
Rudely interrupt you.
No, you can have the last word.
Would it be useful for people if we did this, I don't know, every quarter? Because certainly I've enjoyed it. and I'm certainly happy to jump on once a
Well,
quarter.
that's a good point, Darren. Actually,
Give people an update. I like the platform. It's the first time I've personally ever used it, and I think it'd be useful, and we can discuss. We can just go through progress of the business, where the business is at, and what's going on. If people want to, if they think that once every 5 years is more than enough, listening to my dulcet tones ramble on, then I'll also take that on the chin. I've got quite a hard hat at the moment, so But
no, that's a very good point. Actually, yes. Just let us know, everyone, if you'd like to hear from Darren every sort of quarter in this kind of format, in this open Q&A format, or the frequency you'd like to hear from Darren. We can see people are saying it's a good idea. Keep letting us know if you'd like that idea, and how frequently you would like to hear from him. But that is a very good point, Darren. So that's fine. Just let us know in the group. I don't know if you can do polls in Telegram. Maybe we can do a poll, but just let us know on the chat there, and Telegram admin will pick that up. Well, I think that's everything. So thank you very much, Darren Hazelwood, for your time today, and we'll be speaking again soon.
No, thank you, Mark, and thanks to everybody joining in, and a special thanks to Richard. It was great of him to jump in and ask directly. So no, loved it.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone, and until next time, enjoy the rest of the week.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like, or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.